What up, what up, what up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into another edition of the Patriots Daily Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, powered by Prize Picks and Game Time. I am Mike Kadlick. He is Tayler Kyles, CLNS Media's lead Patriots beat reporter. And we are here to discuss what happened down in Foxboro today because the Patriots started their mandatory minicamp. So had some OTAs, had some workouts, had some stuff, but all that was voluntary until today, where now players essentially they are able to be fined if they don't show up. So it's like a 3-day burnout, get in here, get some work done, and then essentially go away for the rest of the summer and come back for training camp. So the Patriots are here 3 days. It was announced before practice by Maye that they will not practice on Tuesday. So they are taking tomorrow off from practice, and they will instead do some sort of team activity. We're not 100% sure what the deal is there. So 2 days of practice and one down today. So Tayler, we just got back. We got our observations up and pretty much ready on the website. But overall, we'll get into all of it. We're going to talk about Drake Maye. We're going to talk about the offensive line, some defensive secondary stuff, some hold-ins, someone who could be a holdout. We'll get to all that. But first and foremost, Tayler, overall impressions and observations and thoughts from what we saw down to there today in Gillette.
Yeah. First and foremost, if you see me like tear up or cry or anything, just know Liz is making dinner. She's cutting up some onions and they're kind of wafting upstairs. So I just want to get that out of the way in case someone's like, what is going on with him? I mean, as good as Drake Maye was, I didn't quite get emotional. But I guess we start with the guys who actually came to practice for the first time. So Matthew Judon and Davon Godchaux for the first time since we started doing these open periods of practice. Matthew Judon, as Gerard Mayo told us before, was a full participant. We saw him in team drills, which was much different from last year where, he seemed like he was kind of holding in, waiting for a new contract. There was some talk that maybe it was health related, whatever, but as soon as he got that money, we saw him more active. But this year, we really did see him participating in all the drills with what looked like the top unit, so that was significant. Davon Godchaux, however, was not participating. He had his helmet on, he had a hoodie, but he didn't have his jersey on, and we didn't really see him. It's really been Jeremiah Farms has been the primary nose tackle. There's been like Barmore and Aquala and everything, but he didn't participate. And I think the reason is that he has no guaranteed money and is in the last year of his deal. So he is slated to make a good amount of money, especially for a nose tackle. But you'd also understand for a guy who this will be his third contract, probably wants some more job security. So maybe just looking for an extension that'll keep him in Foxboro a little bit longer. And I mean, they had one of the best run defenses of the past decade. So you can also understand why he'd want to get paid. So those are pretty significant. Gerard Mayo said that everyone was present. There were a bunch of players who were not actually participating on the field, likely due to injury, like Kendrick Bourne was out there, obviously was participating. Sione Takitaki, Jelani Tavai, Joshua Uche was not there. And then Jake Andrews and Cole Strange were both guys. I think everybody but Joshua Uche was on the field at some point. So that was cool to see everybody getting back. Gerard Mayo said the point of today was to try to, get the guys who hadn't been here integrated and to continue to build. So, yeah, I feel like attendance is the thing we probably got to start off with. It was nice to see Judon back out there.
Yeah, definitely. That's the one part that, you hit on it a little bit that was interesting to me and I guess noteworthy was that everybody who was not there as sort of a participant. You talked about Takitaki, Uche, Tavai, Andrews, Strange, Bourne. The only one that was a complete, I guess, no-show, if you want to call it that, at least on the field from what we could see, was Josh Uche. So that's something, I guess, to monitor, but also, look, like Godchaux is obviously a contract thing, a hold-in thing. What do you just?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure this out.
You looked like there was like vodka in your water bottle or something.
No, it's just wrong sip. Vodka in my eyes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're good. But the only one to kind of, I guess, keep an eye on and see where it goes is Uche. And look, is it a holdout? No, it can't be because he just signed a 1-year deal and he took a hometown discount and something that he basically admitted to, while we talked to him over the last couple months. So I don't think that's obviously a holdout situation. You wonder, is he sick, whatever. He was just in the area. He just held a camp out in Newton, Mass, I believe, a couple last week.
My old stomping grounds.
Yeah, exactly. Taylor was there.
Helped out coach. That was pretty fun. That was cool.
Yeah. So Uche is around. I wouldn't worry about it, but something to monitor. And everybody else, again, Taki, we haven't seen him like he was supposed to talk to us several times. He was slated to be one of the 6 guys, and he has been out with what we think is an injury for quite some time. So again, it's early. It's June 10th.
Seen him like in street clothes, but we haven't seen him on the field. And that's generally the procedure. If you're hurt, you don't usually play. So I don't know why that was even an option. That was kind of confusing. But
yeah, I know it's happened multiple times. So all right, was he nursing something from Cleveland, or is this an off-season injury for him? You don't know? Nobody. Okay, not sure. So I don't know either. But again, we'll keep an eye on those guys. But again, a lot of guys now. Jonathan Jones is back. Christian Barmore's back. So a lot of those cornerstone pieces that were sort of back and forth in the offseason program. Matthew Judon, obviously. All there today. So a good sign overall.
Fenwick, who's someone that we haven't seen since our rookie minicamp. He's somebody maybe sliding under the radar, but someone that people should be keeping an eye on. The Patriots do need a third running back, and Fenwick's a guy who's older but doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires. He's a versatile guy. Not like he's exceptional at anything. He's more of a jack of all trades, but he's physical. He really fits the kind of mold they like. And because he's older, you kind of can assume he's probably on the more mature side. So it was cool to see him back because I think Terrell Jennings, who I believe he's also dinged up, but he was really, one of the lead guys in terms of the backup running backs. So seeing Fenwick back in the lineup was also notable, I thought.
For sure. All right, let's not bury the lead here. Drake Maye, quarterback, the number 3 overall pick, looked great again today. Noteworthy that he did once again take reps right behind Jacoby Brissett, ahead of Bailey Zappi once again. So I don't want to call it fast tracks. I don't think they're doing this too fast, but he is certainly essentially confirmed as the number 2 quarterback here. Not that he ever wouldn't be, and not that, Bailey was going to be the backup for long, but, they made Maye earn his stripes a little bit early on in OTAs, and he was going behind Zappi or whatever. But look, it's time. He is clearly the number 2 quarterback right now, and he had a pretty good day. I'll let you get into the nitty gritty of it, but, overall, thought he looked really good today. He looks like he, is really taking some command of the offense when he's out there, quick decision making. And then the arm is just always on full display. Like he just, whether he hits guys in stride, whether he, throws away from a defender, whatever, like he knows where he wants to put the ball. And more often than not, he's able to put it there. So another solid showing from Maye, but what did you think overall from what we saw from him? And if you can sort of dive into it a little bit more of what you observed today.
Yeah, so I don't really want to say he bounced back from last week because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We only get access to certain practices. But based on what we saw, where last week, sometimes his inexperience did show, where he had the interception to Juju, where the accuracy was off. There was the miscommunication between him and Antonio Gibson where it was intercepted. And then there were points where it seemed like he may have gotten in his head a little bit, seemed a little more hesitant. His play just kind of dropped off. Today was totally different. The only incompletion he had during the early team drills was on an incompletion. That was one of the best throws we've seen in camp, where there were so many times he would throw passes and you're looking at where it's going and you're like, this guy's blanketed. This better be a perfect pass. And lo and behold, it is. Like, my favorite was the one to LaMichael Petway, where he has a receiver or defender right on his hip. Drake Maye puts it where only his guy can get it. And you saw that consistently, where the accuracy and the ball placement keeps coming out. Also, the aggressiveness. That's what you really love from these young quarterbacks. Is I felt like last week we saw once he made the mistakes, he might have pulled back a little bit. But today, like the first one he had to Petway, where he actually wrestled it away from a defender, he puts it up there and gives his guy a chance. And again, this is LaMichael Petway. Like, this isn't Hunter Henry, a guy where you know he's going to win. Drake's saying, and it's a continuation of what we saw in college, where he doesn't really care who he's throwing to. He's going to give you a chance to make plays. I thought we saw that pretty consistently throughout the day. I'm just trying to look through my notes to make sure I don't leave anything out. Also, like the mobility and the arm slots. You saw a few times, like when the windows are a little tighter because there's a defender there, or if the pocket's not great, you'll see him kind of put that arm sideways and let it rip. And it's also accurate. Like sometimes we've seen Bailey Zappi adopt kind of a sidearm throw and the results are a little up and down, but with Drake, it shows up and it looks good. There was another one he had to Jalen Polk where Drake has some of the coolest throws that don't go beyond 5 yards that you'll see, where there's one, the pocket's kind of collapsing around him. He steps up, keeps his cool, and then he's on the run, gets a sidearm throw to Jalen Polk. And again, it was just a throw to the flat. It wasn't anything crazy, but the composure and the decisiveness really stood out. When pressure came in around him, you saw it. He's going through his reads quickly, hitting his checkdowns. without really hesitating. It's always hard to judge if they're making the right decisions because sometimes you can look at the film like you do in a game and say, he may have gone through the reads too quickly. Even in college, it's not like he wouldn't check the ball down. Sometimes he checked the ball down too quickly and was a little too eager to do that. So it's hard to know exactly what was going on, but from what we could see, I thought it was his best practice kind of by far. I don't think we saw him being this consistent. The entire offense kind of went off the rails a bit once we saw the end of half situations. Yep. A lot of that was just because you didn't see a ton of separation. Sometimes the defensive line was impacting that. So it was, other than the Bailey's happy pick six, there weren't a ton of plays where you're like, the quarterback really messed up.
Right.
Drake had a really good practice. I also want to give Jacoby Brissett his flowers. He's still doing a really good job keeping the offense on schedule. Had one throw to Pop Douglas in the back of the end zone where Pop screamed and then spiked the ball. That was a really good throw. So it continues to be a productive quarterback competition between Drake Maye and Jacoby Brissett. But with the strides you're seeing, where Jacoby even said, you're seeing this kid basically grow on the field every day. Yep. And it's the kind of thing where he's going to be putting in work once there's a break. It kind of seems like it's summer vacation. It's not. Especially quarterbacks, guys are going to their trainers. They have regimens. They're finding ways that they can just continue to build before training camp. I'm excited to see what kind of growth we end up seeing from Drake Maye after that period and how much he can really start competing more for that QB1 job, because I don't think it's a legit competition right now, but you can absolutely see with the talent that Drake shows, if the mental side of the game is consistent once the pads come on, at some point, the way I see it is that if he's beating the top defense, they're going to be like, we need to put this guy in. We all love Jacoby, but if we can't really beat this guy, and if we're having trouble with him, he should be the starter. I don't care if, maybe the offensive line has to figure things out. Maybe the receiving core isn't where you want it to be. Not everyone gets a perfect situation, but I think this is a solid enough team where he can elevate guys and really turn this into a more competitive group than maybe what it would be with Jacoby Brissett if he starts and plays well.
Yeah, you said that to me today when we were standing there watching practice. We were like, "Hey, wait, if he keeps this up, Drake could start." And I kind of gave you the look, like, "What the hell are you talking about here? Let's pump the brakes here a little bit." But I'm sure
it is early.
So it's early, but I was sitting there kind of thinking about it in real time, and I was like, "Well, they wanted to be ready, and they should take it slow and this and that." And then I kind of talked myself like, "But he looks good now. It's only June. If he goes through the summer, like you said, he comes out in training camp and lights it up. That means he's ready." It's almost like a what are we waiting for situation. If he can play well, he looks good, is elevating the receivers around him that, aren't, the A-list, receiver groups like teams like Cincy and whatnot have, just let him go out there. And the offensive line, we're going to talk about the offensive line in a minute, but, the offensive line is sort of, disarray is a strong word, but, kind of mismatched in different, guys playing in different places right now, trying to figure it out. But if he can get over all of that stuff, then there's no reason to not play him. Get him more reps early on. See what he can see if he can learn on the fly and, make better decisions when he sees more live defenses other than just some, the ones that are here. But I mean, you're right. If he's beating the Patriots defense, which is at least top half of the league, if not top 10, closer to top 5, he can play in this league. So again, we'll see what happens. He looked really good today. There was a funny moment. I know you kind of tweeted out and captured a little bit where he made that sidearm play to Jalen Polk you're talking about. And then you and Brian Hines looked over and you see Jabril Peppers mimic him. He jumped up and threw in the air, kind of looking like Patrick Mahomes, whatever. So they're loving it. The teammates like him. So again, if he's out there making plays against this defense and everyone's like, why isn't this guy playing? You might as well put him in. Jacoby Brissett knows his place. He knows what he's here for. So he's on a 1-year deal. He could be the backup if he has to. It's no problem with him. So we'll see where this thing goes. Again, it's super early, but you're right. Today was for sure the best practice we've seen Drake Maye have. So mentioned that one of the sort of obstacles they're going to have to jump through is that offensive line. So we'll get to the offensive line in a second, but first let's take a quick listen to our friends over at Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. The finals mean more on Prize Picks, and so do the star players. You get boosted payouts on select basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. When the finals are over, the hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball was just getting started. With young stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves alongside greats like Breonna Taylor and Asia Wilson, you can win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. This week on Prize Picks, I'm looking at the basketball board, and I'm taking Jaylen Brown's overs on points and rebounds because dude has been absolutely killing it. I'm also going to take Caitlin Clark for more than 3.5 three-pointers made and Brianna Stewart for more than 25 points. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
I usually talk about the ads a lot when they're done. We kind of just get right back into it. But go over and check out Prize Picks because we're doing a lot of good stuff over there on the website, on the video side. Myself, shout out to Richie, shout out to Amit, getting you guys through the NBA playoffs. Celtics obviously up 2-0. I know we used to do a Boston Sports Minute over at Patriots Beat. Might not be the best for Tayler as he's kind of more football and not really paying attention, but he's also been all over the Celtics. He's, Hoops Kyles over there watching, guys like Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis ball out. So go over, check that out, head over to Prize Picks and keep us rolling and keep the Celtics rolling through the playoffs. So let's get to the offensive line, Tayler, because there was a bit of a shakeup today. As many of us noted when we were down there. We talked about it last week, actually, too. Caden Wallace, who is the, I guess, left tackle prodigy that they're trying to hopefully, turn him into. He was the third-round pick out of Penn State. And last week he was playing a lot of right tackle, and we went back and forth about it a little bit on here where I thought that, they should be putting him at left tackle, and you said, no, just, kind of take it easy. Today we saw him playing more right tackle, and then we also saw Mike Onwenu playing right guard. So a position where Onwenu obviously gets the big extension this year. I forget the term of the numbers, but big extension. Gerard Mayo says they're going to play him at right tackle. He was asked if he's going to play any left tackle. He said, nope, we're not doing that. But he wasn't asked about right guard, a position where Onwenu has played a lot over his career, played a lot of tackle, but some guard as well. So I guess, that's what we have to report is that we saw some Wallace at right tackle still, and then Onwenu kick inside. What do you make of it? Are you still okay with, keeping Wallace at right tackle if Onwenu could play guard? Is he getting overpaid with that money if they're going to play him at guard? What do you make about the whole shakeup and I guess what we saw in general on the offensive line today?
So where do I start? So last week we did see, it seemed like with Chuks Okorafor out, everybody kind of seemed to be flipping. Yep. So I was like, right now, Caden Wallace is a right tackle, but everyone's at the spot where they're not usually at. I'm not making a big deal out of it right now. Right. The difference in this practice, like you said, was that Onwenu was at right guard. Usually when we were seeing Caden Wallace at right tackle, it was Layden Robinson beside him,
right? Which
seemed kind of like, okay, they're trying to get the young guys some reps, whatever. But I could really get along with the idea of Mike Onwenu at right guard and Caden Wallace sticking to his spot at right tackle, because then you have two guys at their natural spots. Now, I've also been on the record as saying I don't like Mike Onwenu at guard in this scheme. Because in this Alex Van Pelt with the wide zone and the pin pull, a lot of the concepts they use involve these offensive linemen pulling, which I don't really love for Mike Onwenu. I think he can do it, maybe more on like counter runs where he's kind of sealing the edge rather than really getting out into space. I also don't love the idea of Onwenu having to consistently climb to the second level. I just don't think that's really where he's at his best. But that said, Alex Van Pelt and everybody who talks about Alex Van Pelt talks about how well he uses his personnel and he maximizes them. So if Mike Onwenu was at that right guard spot, I would assume they will be more flexible, maybe go towards more of a downhill scheme, which wouldn't be that crazy because even though we do know that Van Pelt's roots are in the wide zone scheme, and he always says that's what the base of his offense, what he likes it to be, you've seen Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. Those are guys who everybody thinks all they run is outside zone. But if you look at the numbers, they're running gap schemes where like the Niners are running a ton of power and the Rams are running a ton of duo. They're doing it to the highest rates in the NFL. So it wouldn't be so crazy to see them go like, hey, we have a bunch of maulers. Let's just go downhill and try to put this defensive line into linebackers' laps. Right. And even though I understand, we want Caden Wallace to get reps at right tackle, but Gerard Mayo was actually asked about Caden Wallace playing at right tackle. He mentioned, I think it was if you're playing at guard, we want you to be able to play at center. If you're playing at left tackle, we want you to be able to play at right tackle. And again, we've seen that. They're clearly cross-training these guys. The only person we haven't seen at right tackle is Chuks Okorafor, which maybe that's just because he is a veteran and they already have all the tape. It's like, no, we know he can
This
play
is where I play. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Like he started at right tackle. Let's see if he can start at left tackle. At that point, and I think even more so than the tackle depth, I think it's because of the guard depth. Because without Cole Strange, we've seen left guard has been City So. Again, That's a spot that he was at naturally. He was a left guard for most of his time in college. And then at that right guard spot, it's mostly been Nick Leverett. Sometimes you see Michael Jordan. Sometimes Leighton Robinson gets some reps in there. But if you're saying, hey, I think Caden Wallace is a better starter than Nick Leverett, it makes sense. Chukwu Okorafor is a guy who can pretty much pencil or, aggressively pencil into that left tackle spot. It seems like they're pretty confident in his ability to play there. Sidy Sow, if he keeps learning and growing, I think he has good upside. David Andrews, stalwart. Then that right side, I think that really is one of your best options. So again, with this whole offensive line thing, like even Gerard Mayo said, right now it's all mental because you can't really do a whole lot. I spoke to David Andrews after practice, and he was talking about what a disservice it is, especially the young players, the fact that they don't have as much contact as they used to have, and it hurts so much, especially in the run game.
Right.
But again, if you're looking at your top five, like Dante Scarnecchia always preached, you want your best 5 players out on the offensive line. Gerard Mayo echoed that. It makes a lot of sense. If you take your 3rd round pick, you don't want him necessarily having to sit on the bench all year. You'd like to get him some reps on the field.
Sure.
Might not be a left tackle, but he's still learning to play against NFL caliber competition. If that means next season he trains extensively at left tackle in the whole offseason, if it means you draft another left tackle, whatever it is, I like the idea of still getting your best guys and also having guys play their natural positions, because then you can really build chemistry without guys having to also kind of, play with one hand tied behind their back, other than Chooks, who's still learning a new position. So there's question marks, and we'll see how it goes. But again, I like the idea of getting your best players out there.
I'm pretty much with you. I think that, when we went back and forth on the whole, where's Caden Wallace playing left to right, what have you, last week. And I was like, just put him at left tackle. That's what you draft him for, his 3rd round pick, whatever. The more I think of it, the more I see it, it's almost too early to tell. And you kind of said that last week, where, all right, let's just take a step back, let them work this thing out, because it is so early, and let's not get, so up in arms and pissed off at where these guys are playing, because again, everybody has pretty much been cross-training, moving, working inside, working outside, things like that. You have plenty of guys. I guess specifically, Wallace, Onwenu, and Sidy Sow, who have really played guard and tackle and sort of are able to, go back and forth in that. So I'm not too worried about that yet. Rather, I just think that they, when push comes to shove, when training camp gets here, they need to have a better idea and a better decision at what they're going to do. And like you said, have your best 5 guys out there. But I mentioned before, like, are you overpaying on when to play right guard? At that point,
guards are getting paid crazy.
Yes, that was going to be my point. I don't really care, first of all, because if he's really freaking good at it, then I don't care how much you're paying him, because, players make money, and if you're good, you're going to make money. But secondly, you're right. Guards got paid this offseason. So I'm fine with wherever he plays. We kind of know that he's been better at guard than tackle in general. So keep him inside if you think Caden, yeah, Caden can be your right tackle. Okay, so you drafted your right tackle in the 3rd round. You have your right guard for the future. Then you have pretty much everything, and you still might have to figure out left, the left tackle position at some point, depending on Okorafor is only on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, so there's no guarantee.
You figure that right. Yeah, you figure that out down the line, but.
In
also, general,
Onwenu, like I've said in the past, I'm sorry to cut you off. I've said in the past, I think he's an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber guard. I think he's a good tackle. And a good tackle, that's nothing to sneeze at. That still is a significant spot on your offensive line, whether it's left or right. But still, if you can keep Caden Wallace in his spot and he gets to transition the way he's more comfortable, and you get a guy who can be one of the best players at their position, like I'm not sure if Onwenu's ever going to be a top 10, top 15 tackle. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Because physically it's not what suits his skill set. But the fact that he can play it well, still you'd like to have competent tackle play. But man, if they adjust to his skill set, I like the idea of playing him at guard. Again, as long as you're not asking this dude to play in space a ton, because I think that's where you kind of bring him back down a peg, where if you maximize his skill, he can be one of the best guys in this position. If you ask him to do stuff he's not good at, then you're just not going to get the same return on investment.
Right. I'm with you there. So we've talked about the 1st round pick. We've talked about the 3rd round pick. We haven't yet talked on the 2nd round pick, and that is Jalen Polk, who I am quickly becoming obsessed with Jalen Polk's on the field presence. And again, he's in and out of the sort of first team. He's back with the second team sometimes. He's working everywhere. But I mean, that dude just plays so confidently, Taylor. Like, I think that, again, it's super early and the caveats and blah, blah, blah. We always say it, grain of salt, what have you. But, like, he already looks like so much better than I even expected him to look. I mean, the 37th overall pick at the time, it felt like, I don't even want to call it a reach, but it was, nobody really expected him to go there. They thought maybe later on in the second round, but he's looking like everything you'd want out of the 37th overall pick. He has like these strong, confident hands. He goes up and high points the ball. He runs crisp routes. He's a smart player and he shows it on the field. And I think too, like a guy like Tyquan Thornton today, who overall has had a pretty good, spring, wasn't great. He had a miscommunication with the first team offense with Jacoby Brissett. He also had a pretty big drop across the middle where, his hands had looked pretty strong so far, but those drops have sort of been kind of his downfall over the last couple of years. So look, Thornton's going to be on the roster bubble. If Jalen Polk can come in and really contribute, I think that's, a slam dunk move where I guess you get rid of Thornton and you put Jalen Polk and give him a little bit more of a, some time to shine, because he really does look like a guy who can come in and contribute pretty much right away to this team. I'm going to harp on it again. The strong, confident hands, like every time the ball touches his hands, it's not bobbled. It's not, a sort of quick chest grab. It hits his mitts and it's gone and it's in. It's like, I feel like we haven't had that in some time. Every time a ball goes to a receiver around here, sometimes it's like, oh crap, is he going to catch it? Jalen Polk doesn't bring that. So again, obsessed with him so far. I can't wait to see where we get with him into the summer and then of course into the season.
It's also nice seeing him make plays because we haven't seen Javon Baker in a couple of days.
Right.
Or in the last couple of practices we've seen where we're seeing him go through drills, but he's not having the ball thrown to him. He had a sleeve on one of his legs, so we don't have any confirmation, and I really don't like getting into speculation when it comes to injuries. I just don't think it's super helpful. But the point is, we haven't really seen him on the field a lot. And I've been saying, if this offense is going to be better than we expect, one of these young guys has to contribute and bring some juice, because I think Pop is really going to be like the guy in this offense. I think he gives you that 3-level ability. But outside of that, I just think the veterans are solid, but not really game changers, especially when you talk about Kendrick Bourne, probably maybe starting the season off slow because he doesn't look like he's really at the place he probably wants to be. But Jalen Polk, like you got Drake Maye, who has arm arrogance, and Jalen Polk has hand arrogance.
Yes.
I think he caught a touchdown. I know Andrew Callahan spotted it. I didn't see it, unfortunately. Apparently he had a touchdown against Christian Gonzalez, which is pretty awesome. And like you say, the high pointing the ball, it happens all the time, and you can see that it's something he works at. Yeah. It looks so effortless. You do see him start mixing in with the top team. And also, we haven't even gotten to see his blocking. Like, that's going to be a lot of the times where we're going to start reporting on, like, I heard Jalen Polk block like a linebacker. Yeah. And that's the thing that I always thought was going to get him on the field immediately. But how reliable he has been as a pass catcher. Let me get to my notes real quick just so I can make sure. He had a touchdown. I think he had 2 touchdowns in red zone work.
Yes. One of them was on Gonzalez. The other one, I can't remember who it was on, but it was from Zappy on the one that wasn't Gonzalez. Yeah. Yeah.
So just knowing that he's like building rapport, not just with Drake Maye, but with the other quarterbacks, where regardless of who starts, there's a good chance he'll still be on the field just because you can rely on him in a way, like you mentioned, you can't really with these other receivers. I think that really says a lot. And I just can't wait till we can get more physical and see his skill set really shine, because the hands are why you come. Like, he's still a work in progress as a route runner. Yep. You even saw in some drills where he relies so much more on pace. And I thought it was interesting where there was, I think it was David Wallace, like sped through a drill. And by the time he got to the end of it, Polk was halfway through. But it's just because he runs his routes differently. And I feel like coming from that Washington program where they had such good coaching, it is a pro-style offense where he also was learning things that were applicable to the league, unlike some of these air raid systems where you're coming into the NFL and learning something almost completely different in terms of your execution. I do think he has the training and the pedigree where he can catch on a lot faster. And it feels like, again, he's just kind of operating at a different speed and a different level of confidence than other guys around him. We'll see how that develops. But again, for these young guys, you want to see them start earning their keep and get this offense to a place where it's a little more respectable. It's cool to see him continue to make plays.
Yeah, it is. I think it gives you a lot of confidence, again, with those first 3 picks here. Drake Maye obviously having a good day. Jalen Polk looking like, the stud that he can be at the wide receiver position. And then, it looks like they might have a little bit more of a plan for Caden Wallace. Now, if you don't want him at right tackle, I understand that. I don't really either. I would have rather used one of those top 3 picks on a left tackle. But look, you mentioned it perfectly with Alex Van Pelt, how he uses his personnel pretty well. You saw that in Cleveland last year with the guys they moved all around the offensive line, DeJuan Jones, things like that, making it work. So overall, a good showing from those top three guys in Drake Maye, Jalen Polk, and Caden Wallace today. Taylor,
and one other draft pick I want to show some love to, Jaheim Bell.
Yeah,
he had a really cool touchdown where Drake Maye had an anticipatory throw. Yeah. Again, some of the times I'm seeing where Drake's throwing, and I'm just like, boy, that ball better be on point or it's not going to be good. And he put it at the top shelf where Jaheim Bell went up and caught it in the back of the end zone. I think he caught a couple of passes from Joe Milton as well. They weren't crazy. They were underneath throws during 2 or 1 minute into half drills. But also Jaheim Bell, the fact that he's being able to make plays, especially on a day where Austin Hooper had, a few reps that didn't look great. I'm not sure if they were just miscommunications or what, but there were some passes that weren't even close for him to be catchable. There were a couple other opportunities I thought he didn't capitalize on.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising because you expect him to be the reliable veteran receiver who's like an okay blocker. And he gives you that kind of Hunter Henry light sort of energy where Jaheim Bell can do a little bit of everything. So I hope that, again, these young guys can keep building their stock because if they can contribute, man, this is a very different looking offense than, just Hunter Henry, KJ Osborne, and, Juju Smith-Schuster. That's where you're like, okay, we're like cooking with something where Drake can give these guys chances to make plays, and I think they can just capitalize maybe better than some of the veterans. So also Jaheim Bell absolutely deserved a shout out. He's starting to make some plays as well.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, before we wrap this thing up, we're gonna listen to our friends at Game Time, but then we'll finish it up with secondary talk as well as some Rhamondre Stevenson stuff. So, quick word from Game Time, and we'll be right back.
The NBA Finals are finally here, and if I have any chance at all to find tickets to a game, it's probably going to be through Game Time, an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Getting through the Game Time app is super easy, and I really like their user interface. All you have to do is go to the game or event that you want to attend, go through the venue to see where you want to sit relative to the action. Then you can actually get a panoramic view of your seat so you'll know exactly what to expect once you get your ticket. Game Time is also great for those weekends where you're not really sure what you want to do with your night because you can just scroll through, look at flash deals, zone deals, or last-minute tickets and find a plan to spend the rest of your day or evening. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right, let's talk about the secondary. The secondary is taking shape a little bit here, Taylor. And we spoke with Isaiah Bolden after practice. We saw guys like Marco Wilson, Alex Austin, continue to play on the boundary, and we saw Jonathan Jones back in the slot. So I'll kind of leave this up to you. Again, I talked about this last time that my eyes have been sort of firmly on Drake Maye. It is the fan in me that wants to watch the quarterback rather than the defense. It's the former quarterback in me that wants to watch the quarterback rather than the defense. So I did watch some of these guys play. Alex Austin continues to look solid. Christian Gonzalez is obviously Christian Gonzalez. We don't have to worry about him, but secondary starting to take shape a little bit. Rob Mayo talked about it a little bit today as well. What did you make of what we're seeing in the back end of the defense?
So it looks like Marco Wilson and Alex Austin are really in competition for that spot on the outside.
Yep.
It felt like Alex Austin was getting the majority of those reps, although there were also some periods where Marco Wilson seemed to be the first guy up. But again, they were rotating, and Alex Austin, I feel like as long as he makes plays, probably has a leg up. Neither one of them stood out for me today. I just didn't particularly notice them, but Alex Austin has been the one who usually does stand out. And then in the slot, now Bolden has been getting the majority of the slot reps, which is kind of notable. One, because he's someone who in college played all over the secondary. So it's kind of cool that maybe they're experimenting with that kind of big slot type of presence, especially when you have someone like Sean Wade, who actually has experience there, has been on the team for so long, and you're saying Isaiah Bolden kind of jump him, which is super interesting. Gerard Mayo did note, however, that that's mostly due to depth, or they said their slot guys haven't really been available, and who hasn't really been on the field? Jonathan Jones and Marcus Jones. So to me, that kind of says whether it's Marcus or Jonathan, those guys are really seen as the primary slot guys, which music to my ears, because I think I actually spoke to Andre Weingarten. He did have some good points as to why Jonathan Jones at this point in his career might be better on the outside, just because he doesn't have quite the lateral quickness he used to. Marcus Jones obviously is better in that spot, but there's so much that goes on mentally. You kind of wonder how much he can pick up and whether he can be consistent or healthy. But with those guys, kind of, especially again, Marcus Jones' health situation, it is nice that Isaiah Bolden's at least getting reps. Mayo did say he sees him as more of as a perimeter corner, though. Also, kind of mentioned he could be a special teams demon. So we'll see how that, works itself out once maybe we get better health-wise on this team. But, I mean, he doesn't look out of place. He's not getting burned for plays or anything. If anything, he looks pretty competitive out there. So, yeah, that corner group is Gonzo clearly in the lead. Outside, it feels like Alex Austin and Marco Wilson, with maybe Alex Austin having a bit of an edge. Bolden was the slot presence, though. And then, in terms of the safeties, Jabril Pepper and Kyle Duggar, obviously the starters. We've seen a lot of Jalen Hawkins, and I didn't expect that. He's been primarily a special teamer. I believe it was either a year or 2 years ago where he did get a decent amount of snaps as a free safety. Did have some turnovers, but they were more opportunistic than they were, him just reading the play. But still, being around the ball and having some part in turnovers, there is some significance in that. So it was interesting to see him get a lot of reps. Feels like he's maybe in that Adrian Phillips or Jalen Mills kind of mold. And then Marte Mapu, he was asked if he might be playing more linebacker, which the question annoys me so much because I feel like he's a dime linebacker. Like in passing situations, sure. And I've been saying that since last year where everyone's like, oh, move him to linebacker. I'm like, unless you want him to put on 20 pounds, he should not play linebacker. And if he can play linebacker to some degree and safety, the Patriots value safeties more than linebackers. Like, I don't think they have any intention of taking away his versatility just to make him a linebacker. Like, we talked about it. Maybe he's more of a Mac Wilson type, sure. But it seemed like he was closer to the line of scrimmage today and more of like Gerard said that he could be more like a big slot like he was in college. That's really more where we saw him in like the free safety kind of looks. Didn't see him a ton on the back end. So we didn't get any answers necessarily, but we are getting a clearer picture for maybe what the secondary could look like at this point. Still a lot of shakeups. Again, no Jonathan Jones, no Marcus Jones. We'll see what happens. Can Jalen Hawkins continue to be consistent and, play productively once pads come on and things are a little faster paced? We don't know, but, guys that we definitely should have more of an eye on are, again, Jalen Hawkins, and then Alex Austin and Marco Wilson outside, Isaiah Bolden in the slot, who's looking pretty good.
Yeah, the thing I'll add, too, is just that, and Mayo said it, was, with Isaiah Bolden, right? Like, you're going to see him shine, or you're going to see what you have in him more so, I guess, when the pads come on, because he is a big corner type. So obviously you can move and you can kind of see his, I guess the way he moves and plays in coverage, but he's a guy who's sort of like not a thumper, but can be physical and is this big presence. So that's where you're going to see him kind of shine more. I'm also interested I'm interested why we haven't seen Bolden get any reps with the returners on kickoff, because he was the best kick returners in college football 2 seasons ago.
Like historically.
Exactly. Right. And so I'm curious why that's not happening. I wonder if it's, something they maybe see. They did a lot of kickoff work today, and it's the same guys. Jalen Poole, KJ Osborne, Rager, Douglas, and Marcus Jones were back there. Still no Isaiah Bolden. I don't know. It's probably not him coming back from the injury because he's been cleared for 6 months, according to him. So we'll see where that goes. But if he can add any value there on special teams, I think that's going to help his cause as well. Something that – go ahead.
And Mayo did say that he could be like a special teams demon, which makes sense. He's got a crazy athletic profile, and he was taken. I think he was the 7th round pick, and Amir Speed was taken before him. Do I have that mixed up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're
so
right.
At the very least, he should be like an elite special teams player. So we'll see how that develops. But he'll have some role on this team, regardless of what phase of the game and where he's necessarily lining up.
Definitely good overall to see him out there and talking to us and everything after what happened and what he went through last preseason against Green Bay. So let's wrap it up, Taylor, with one final thought. Well, I guess we can give our overall thoughts after, but one sort of bullet point here, and it's that Rhamondre Stevenson spoke after practice. Our friend Andy Hart over at WEEI pressing him a little bit on his contract situation, asking, what's going on there, if he's been upset about some other guys on the team getting extensions with him not, asking about the running back market, whatever. And Stevenson told us that he is getting close to an extension with the team. So I've heard that this has sort of been an ongoing thing between the team and Stevenson. He is one of those core guys that they want to try and keep around. talks have gone back and forth, but according to Stevenson today, they are getting close. So running back is obviously a tricky position, as we know. The shelf lives are a little shorter. You know, you can go back and forth and saying, should you pay a running back? Should you just draft and develop? Elliott Wolf obviously loves to draft and develop, but Stevenson has been a core member of this team. So overall, what do you make of him, you know, kind of letting that loose today if they might be close to an extension? Do you think it's worth it? Do you think they should do it? And thoughts on him overall heading into this season, where he does look a lot slimmer, I will add to. He looks like he's sort of worked on his figure, maybe try and get the speed up here and be a little bit more versatile back rather than just a bowling ball. So thoughts on Stevenson potentially getting close to an extension with the Patriots, Taylor?
Yeah, he did mention that they want to get outside the tackles more often this year. And Rhamondre said he's the same weight, but he's been cutting fat and adding muscle, which is awesome for him. We know in the offseason, like, this dude's a warrior. He's constantly working on ways to improve. The running back position is devalued. I understand why some people may scoff at the idea of giving a running back a second contract or paying them any significant amount of money. But at the same time, if you want to preach that we're going to reward guys, there are very few people that are more rewarding or more deserving than Rhamondre Stevenson. Has he battled injury time? Yes. That's the nature of the running back position. I'm sorry. But at the same time, there have been stretches where he is one of, if not your only offensive weapon. Like, he has carried such a massive load for this team since 2022, obviously flashed in 2021 as well. But then you also talk about the leadership he's brought, like being the elder guy in that room. I think he's right now the only holdover from when Ivan Fears was on the team. And I think there's a lot of value in that as well, teaching guys how to be professionals and all that. And he's also done everything you've asked. He's a good pass catcher. He's probably still their best pass blocker. He does everything for you. So I'm all for it. After Christian Barmore was extended, I predicted that he would be the next priority candidate because, again, one, the character. He's someone you want in the locker room who, you know, Gerard Mayo talked about David Andrews, how he's a leader and exhibits the Patriot way. Like, Rhamondre Stevenson absolutely does that because he has taken a lot of responsibility over this offense and has never complained once. Right. So I love the idea of giving him a reward, however much that may be. And let's also be honest, the Patriots haven't given out a single extension where, except for you could argue maybe Duggar, where you look at it and you're like, that's a little bit rich. Like, they got great deals on Barmore and great deals on Mike Nwenu, who are two of their best overall players. So I feel like whatever it comes down to for Rhamondre Stevenson, I feel like it's going to be at least fairly reasonable. And I'm excited for him because I really do think he's deserving. And one, with running backs not making any money in the way that they are being treated and how kind of messed up it is, it's really cool to see him valued by his team and them saying, yeah, we value, we want you to stick around. They got to cross the finish line. You know, that is still very important. But again, just very deserving. And I'm hoping they get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, I think they should, again, I don't know if they should prioritize it as far as it being next. But I guess, you know, when you look at other guys who are in contract years, whatever, like, he is next up. He's the next guy. So I think they should make it happen because you kind of hit it all on the head where he's been the exemplary Patriot. He's taken on a lot of responsibilities. He's turned his game from just a runner to a pass catcher to a blocker. Like, he looks really solid and has been really one of the cornerstones of the offense, one of the better players for them over the last 2 years where the offense outside of him has struggled mightily. So would be rewarding to see number 38 get some extra cash here. He also did mention that he's been watching a lot of Nick Chubb. He turns on Nick Chubb highlights over on YouTube to try and get an idea of what he's going to do in Alexander Pelt's offense. So fun stuff there. We'll see what they can go. You were going to make one more comment on.
I believe Miguel Benzon, friend of the show at PatsCap on Twitter, mentioned that the Patriots would actually save money this year if they did. Now, they don't really need a ton of money, obviously. Right. I don't know what they'd be doing with it, but I do think they save money on this year's deal if they do extend Rhamondre Stevenson. So there's a little bit of, if you want more information, you can feel free to go back to the last episode we did with Pat's Cap or just hit him up on Twitter. I'm sure, he'd love to drop some knowledge, but yeah, I believe it would be in the Patriots' best interest, at least in this year, if they found some way to lengthen that contract.
Yep. I'm with you. All right. Any other final thoughts, wrap up, Taylor, before we get out of here?
A couple things. So one, we've been talking about discipline and whether the Patriots, we've seen that false starts and all these penalties, players don't get punished the way they used to, where we see them take laps and all that. We did see Michael Jordan get kicked out of practice, though, because it seemed like he got into a scuffle towards the end of the day with Tristan Hill. Yep. So that's the first time we've really seen someone get some kind of punishment for an infraction. I thought that was pretty notable. Chad Ryland went 2 for 4 on field goal attempts to end practice, while Joey Sly went 4 for 4. That's one we're definitely going to need to keep an eye out on. It's just, we're rooting for Chad Ryland, obviously, but it's just really disappointing. We were talking about it. I don't think we've been to a practice where he's made all of his field goal attempts in those end of practice sessions. So, and then you guys can check out Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder, the Bootleg Football Podcast. They do a series where they do deep dives into every single NFL team. I believe they started with the Patriots. I think it's up right now. They mentioned how Chad Ryland's kicking percentage would have been terrible for a college kicker. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to dump on the guy, but you got to see some improvement, or they may end up going to get one of these like XFL or USFL kickers or whatever, because it's just not good enough. Right. And one more thing, I will direct people to my Twitter page. I spoke with David Andrews at the end of practice about June being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and he had some great things to say about the importance of checking in on people, really having conversations rather than sometimes talking without a lot of substance to it at times. And also brought up his friend and former Patriot, Corey Cunningham, who unfortunately passed away back in April. So I would highly encourage everybody to listen to what David Andrews had to say. He's been very vocal about his mental health journey. And it's just kind of cool to hear NFL players who everyone thinks of as, you know, these superheroes and these titans obviously acknowledge the fact that mental health is still very important. And even for guys who are on the pedestal that we put them on, it's still something that's important to them and needs to be addressed. So, you know, check that out if you get the chance.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I put a little shout out to Men's Mental Health Awareness Month at the end of my Sunday column the other day, where, you know, it sounds like cliche, but, you know, you're never alone, right? Like, you can reach out to anybody and talk to people. And I know it's all, you know, like you mentioned, you know, these football players who everyone thinks is all, you know, tough guy, high and mighty, and, you know, hard head, and don't let your feelings out. It's so stupid. Like, people go through shit. Shit gets very real sometimes. Don't be afraid to reach out to anybody. Reach out to me if you have to. I'm serious. I'll be a sounding board. I've went through my own mental health struggles in the past. So I won't go on this, you know, go on my whole rant, but good on DA to kind of, you know, mention that. And I'm happy you asked him about it, because he's been vocal about that stuff. So good stuff.
And also, I know I've spoken to John Zannis about it, but we may try to do a show where we talk about mental health. If you're interested in that, if there's anything that you'd like us to talk about, feel free to shoot it over in the comments so we have an idea of, you know, how to put it together. Because obviously this is a football-centric channel and all that, but I mean, these are things that are very important, and we're not robots. Like, you know, like you said, Mike, I've gone through my own mental health journey. So if anybody wants to have that kind of discussion, give us some feedback. Let us know what kind of things you want to talk about. But we are definitely brainstorming some kind of way to address, you know, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So just let us know.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Well, that's it for us, myself and Taylor here. Patriots wrapping up day 1 of their mandatory minicamp. We'll be back on Pat's Daily. I'm not 100% sure when. Taylor probably has a little bit better of an idea. Tomorrow, like I said, Patriots are off from practice, but they'll be back at it on Wednesday. We're brainstorming what we're going to do as sort of an in-between show on Wednesday afternoon, because we have Patriots practice on Wednesday, but then we also have Tom Brady night Wednesday night. So it's going to be fun here. Obviously, keep it locked into all the CLNS channels, because a bunch of our guys are out in Dallas already, coming down the pipe for what is game 3 and 4 of the NBA Finals in Mark Cuban's house with the Mavericks. So again, keep it locked in here. Patriots Press Pass. Follow Taylor on Twitter at TKyles39. And you can follow me as well at Mike Kadlick. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.